Since 2008, Mothers Uncovered has been empowering women in matrescence, the transition to motherhood. Becoming a parent is hugely exciting, but it can be an incredibly daunting and lonely experience too.
They say things like, "You've saved my life, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this group," which is amazing, but it's also quite terrifying that it's just like we are the people who are doing that, and now we're at risk of not being able to do that because we don't have the funds.
Jenny Malarski-Sturmschek started going to the groups when her son was 2.5. Veddy was born during the pandemic, and Jenny suffered postnatal depression.
From the second he was born, there was this kind of lack of support, which actually the more I kind of learned about it after he was born, wasn't necessarily just because of the pandemic. I think there's lots of things like funding and also just a kind of lack of kind of knowledge of what you might need afterwards. Like there's a lot of focus kind of leading up to having a baby. You have like so many regular appointments. Everyone's always kind of asking how you are and checking in and stuff. And then obviously after they're born, they're just like obsessed with the baby. And
it's something you don't give much thought to, I think, until you become a mother.
Over the last year, Maggie has made 45 funding bids, but now she's had to make the heartbreaking decision to pause the sessions because there simply isn't enough money to keep going.
Investing in community voluntary support is hugely beneficial, and it's so much cheaper.
And do you sort of genuinely see that change that support gives from other people who've been through the same experience?
Absolutely. So we worked with probably over 2,000 women. We've been going since 2008. And the amount of women who say things like, "You've saved my life," or, I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for you. So we know that it makes a massive difference for people, particularly when waiting lists for NHS services are sadly really, really long. And that's not through their own fault. It's because they're so stretched resource-wise. So women are often waiting about 1.5 years for an appointment to discuss a traumatic birth, walking around in a state of trauma and not able to offload that. So, we help them, and they say you can see it in their bodies. They feel lifted. They are, now not in a state of trauma anymore.
Goodness me, imagine your baby getting to 18 months old and you still haven't had any help with either traumatic birth or just the huge change in your life that a baby brings.
Exactly. Yeah, no, you've just touched on it there. There's a word that I advocate for, which is matrescence, which means the process of becoming a mother. Because, having a baby, then you are a mother. But it's about much more than that. It's about the mental and emotional and societal changes that happen to you when you become a mother.
It used to be that we'd have a mother who we were seriously worried about, maybe one mother every 18 months. Now it's several a year. And again, as I say, the problems just kind of exacerbate because as well there's financial worries. As we know, we're in a cost of living crisis. So many women are frightened about how they're going to pay the bills. And they don't speak up because they feel guilt and shame, because if they do speak up, they're often told to stop moaning and just get on with it. And they are grateful to have a child. I was grateful, and yet I struggled and really needed a support group to boost me and to give me a community going forward. And what makes me so annoyed is that peer support, which is what we offer, is so much cheaper, and it creates a whole community that will support a mother for months or even years. So one of our groups is only £1,500. That's the cost of a hospital bed for one night.
When you think about the assessment time that it takes, how much does that concern you? Because you're looking at anything, up to 26 weeks at times. That is something that potentially needs to be cut to really help these women, or?
Yeah, and I would say that's a conservative figure. I mean, we supported a woman last year who'd been on a waiting list for 9 months and then just received a letter to say, was she happy to still stay on the waiting list? It's way more than that in certain areas, and that's what the report also showed. It's very patchy care. Some areas are better served than others. So most of the women who come to us have been sitting on a waiting list for months and months and months just to process their traumatic birth so they can get on with enjoying their life and raising their family the best way they can.
Is there anything that can be done in terms of community, in terms of network, in terms of family, to help these women that are struggling with their mental health, pretty much whilst they're pregnant and in the immediate aftermath of birth as well?
Certainly, family help is hugely important. I think what we notice, though, is because women tend to have babies later than they used to, they often don't have that family network around them, and they've probably been working right up until the point they've given birth. So that's why isolation is such a key thing. They've got this newborn, they've perhaps had a horrendous birth. They don't know where to go to for support.
I'm Maggie, the founder of Mothers Uncovered. I set up a petition in April when I heard there were changes planned for universal credit in the autumn. Parents were required to work 16 hours a week in order to claim any benefits once their youngest child turned 3. This was now set to rise to 30 hours. Last night, in the middle of half-term, the petition closed with over 23,000 signatures. Today, the DWP have announced the changes with immediate effect.